So now that we have started clicking around a lot in AutoCAD and we've been using it, and you guys have gotten really good with creating lines and some basic patterns with lines and rectangles, and you've started understanding how to plot points on the grid, I'm going to show you guys some settings and some things that you're going to need to do your future drawings. So you're already familiar with the line tool up here. We have the circle tool, which we're going to be using next, and if you look, we have circle by radius, circle by diameter, 2 point, 3 point, tan, tan radius, tan, tan, tan. So we will get to some of these in the next few drawings, especially radius and diameter drawings. And then obviously you guys have been using the rectangle, there's a polygon. Don't forget about these tools here. I wanted to give a really quick demonstration of the move and copy tool just so you guys can kind of see and have a refresher. So I'm just going to draw a quick box. If I want to move this box, all I have to do is simply click on the move tool, select the object I want to move, click enter. Then you select a point that you want to move it from. I usually go from the center, but if you want to go from the corner, you can. It doesn't really matter. And then you can move it around. That way, if you place something in the wrong spot, you don't have to delete it. You can just move it to the correct location. And the way it goes with copy is you select the copy tool, select the object you want to copy, press enter again. Once again, you're going to select the point you want to copy it from, and so like I said, I usually prefer the middle, but you could pick the corner. It doesn't really matter. And then you can actually make copies. Whenever you're done using a tool, you have to push enter to exit out of it. So that way I'm done making my copies and I press enter and I'm done with it. Now, if I want to delete these, I can do a couple different things. You either have to select the object and click the delete button, not the backspace button. On your guys' laptops, the delete button is right above the backspace button, but it does have to be the delete button, not the backspace button. If you want to delete a lot of objects all at once, you can double click, drag, select them all, and delete them all at once. Now there's a couple other settings. That was really basic stuff right there. Some of the more important things that I want you guys to pay attention to is down here. Now if you remember, this is our grid, on and off, and then our snap, on and off. And the snap allows us, if I'm in a tool, to go to the boxes. Okay. Some of you guys have had your ortho on, which is your ortho mode. If this box is on, it kind of prevents you the way that you're drawing stuff. So if it's on and I'm trying to draw something, it only lets me draw straight lines, vertical and horizontal. It doesn't let me do any diagonals. So there's a good chance that you probably do not want this on, especially if we're doing anything. Especially if we're doing anything where we need angles. So if you're having that difficulty, make sure your ortho's off. And then the other weird thing that some of you guys have had on is this guy right here, our OS snap or object snap. What this does is it works similar to the snap, but instead of snapping to points on the grid, it's snapping to points on the object. So instead of trying to draw this object and cut it in half, it's always going to snap to this corner. And that can be really frustrating. So unless you're trying to always snap to a corner of an object, you're going to want this guy turned off, okay? Now, if you notice here on my screen, I have my coordinates wherever I go on my grid, it actually changes the coordinates. This coordinate thing can be really helpful, so you can turn it on by coming over here to your menu button. It's the 3 little lines here on the right-hand side, and go up to coordinates and turn that on. So those are some helpful tools down here. I also wanted to show you how we can actually change our grid size, change our snap size, and how we can zoom in. So I've noticed that some of you guys have been having issues with your zoom. You either get lost or get confused or something's happening. So if you're getting lost with your zoom, it can be a little frustrating to try and get back to the right scale and the right size. So here, if I'm zoomed out, which is this happens to some of you guys, it still looks like I'm zoomed in correctly. But if you notice the coordinates down here, See how they start getting up into 3,000, 4,000? That's one way of telling that you're zoomed out, and you can zoom in and kind of start getting back. But obviously, now I'm all the way over to the right somewhere in this space. You can either use the pan tool here, which is the little hand, and kind of pan around, zoom in, pan around, zoom in. This can get a little annoying to try and zoom back in. The other thing you can do is on your mouse, that little scroll bar or that little scroll wheel in the center, if you double click it, it will take you straight back to your object in your drawing area and zoom it all the way in, which is kind of nice. So it recenters everything. You can also do that if you're not using a mouse by using the zoom extend tool. It's right here on the right hand side, right below the hand. So if I'm zoomed all the way out, completely lost my drawing, have no clue where I'm at, I can click the zoom extend and it'll take me back. And it works even if you don't have anything drawn. So if for whatever reason you're doing something, it opens up weird and you're trying to do a drawing, and some of you guys experienced this when we were plotting points. So I can't remember the exact points, but if we were plotting 4.3 and then you want it to do another point of 2,2, you'll notice it doesn't look like it drew anything because it's so tiny. Some of you guys lost your shapes and things like that. And so, like I said, the easiest way to get back to our original point is to either double click on the mouse wheel. Now, if you'll notice, it's not working. The reason why it's not working is because I'm in a tool. So you have to be exited out of any tool. So I'm going to push enter, so I'm exited out of the tool. And then if I double click my mouse wheel, it brings me back. Or, like I said, come up here and this little cross with magnifying glass, zoom extend, click that and it'll take you back. So if you get lost in this grid of foreverness, it will take you guys back. The other thing I want to show you how to change your grid size. If you come down here to your grid, you right click on it, you'll see grid settings. This opens up this menu here and you can change your grid setting. So every small box is 0.5. This is the standard. So if you think of it in inches, this is half an inch. So every small box here is half an inch. So two boxes is what it takes to create 1 inch. So you can either change it there. There are some different ways to change things in here. You can actually change, this is your snap, and the snap actually goes there, and then your grid. So like I said, you can change your grid spacing here. So if I wanted every box to be 1, I can do that. You can even change the major lines, which are those darker lines, if you wanted every 5. I like it as 5 because then it makes things easier to count. And then you could change your snap. So let's say my snap is at half inch, but my grid is at inch. We'll see what that looks like. So now you'll notice that each box here is technically, these little boxes is 1, but you'll notice that my snap goes halfway through a box. So that's because my snap is set to half an inch and my grid is set to 1 inch. So for some drawings, you do need to change your grid and your snap. Other ones you don't. Sometimes it's just your preference and what you're actually drawing. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is actually, I'm going to do it with the rectangle tool, is you guys see when I'm in a tool like line or rectangle or even circle, you'll notice that it's counting. It's telling me where I am at on the grid. So there was a drawing where we had to draw a box that was 16 small boxes by 16 small boxes, or it was 8.000 time by 8.000. So the easiest way, because I noticed a lot of you guys were counting, so you would click and you count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you count it over. Those numbers actually help you if you notice the numbers change as I move up. So if I go up, it shows me 8, and if I go over, it shows me 8. So when we had to do, I think it was drawing number 2, and you had to draw a box that was 8.000 by 8.0000, you had to count up 16 small boxes and then over 16 small boxes. Well, you can just follow along with the numbers. The numbers will tell you. And the numbers will stay accurate no matter what your grid is set to. So I'm going to go back to my snap settings. I'm going to change my grid back to 0.5 and it'll set everything back. So now I have the small boxes again. And if I do the same thing with my box, I go up 8 and over 8. And then I would start my drawing in there. And that's the 16 small boxes by the 16 small boxes. So I just wanted to show you a couple things to kind of help you guys out, because as we go on, we're going to have to start changing our snap settings and things like that. So hopefully this was helpful.